Welcome to StopFake, the place where we debunk disinformation and set the record straight on fakes about Ukraine. I'm Marko Suprun, and this week's autopsies include Ukrainian military fire on OSCE patrol, Ukraine to separate from Crimea via canal, NATO expansion destabilizing Europe, and Ukraine to face problems after leaving the CIS. Details ahead. The self-proclaimed Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republics regularly accuse Ukraine of shelling civilians and OSCE monitors. Their latest claim is that on May 21, Ukrainian forces shot at an OSCE patrol near the village of Kryakivka. The OSCE Special Monitoring Mission report for that day states that it was unable to establish the direction of fire. Russian and separatist websites quote Andrei Morochko, a representative of the LNR militia who claimed the Ukrainian military was intimidating OSCE monitors in order to hide their Minsk Agreement violations and the prohibited weapons they were using. Morochko did not present one shred of evidence to support his claim. Now, the OSCE Special Monitoring Mission report for May 21 describes the shelling incident and notes that it was not possible to determine the direction of fire. The OSCE patrol was on the western outskirts of Kryakivka, a village in Ukraine-controlled territory some 38 kilometers northwest of Luhansk, when they heard 4 shots fired about 100 meters south of their location. Mission members returned to Ukraine-controlled territory and notified the Ukrainian side of the incident. OSCE Special Monitoring Mission to Ukraine Principal Deputy Chief Monitor Alexander Hug spoke about this incident to Hromadske television. He said the situation in the occupied territories is deteriorating, and this is not the first time that shelling has occurred close to OSCE patrols. Ukraine is developing plans for the construction of a canal to separate the Ukrainian mainland from Russian-occupied Crimea, several Russian media announced last week. The alleged canal is planned to cut across the Perekop Isthmus, connecting the Crimean Peninsula with mainland Ukraine to allow ships to cross from the Sea of Azov to the Black Sea. RIA Novosti and REN-TV reported Ukraine's state company Ukrhydroprojekt, specializing in hydro construction, was developing the project. As their source, Russian media refer to unnamed Ukrainian publications which allegedly cite Ukrhydroprojekt lead engineer Tatyana Lunina, who seemingly said the future canal will provide commercial shipping between the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov, where the large port of Mariupol is located. According to Ukrhydroprojekt, the company not only does not have any plans to build a canal across the Perekop Isthmus, it has never employed an engineer named Tatyana Lunina. NATO plans to destabilize Europe. This was Russia's latest reaction to NATO's growing presence in the Balkans. Russian media cranked up the anti-NATO hysteria after parliamentarians from NATO countries called on the alliance to show unity at their upcoming summit in the face of security threats from Russia and from terrorism. After the publication of this statement, Russian media began disseminating stories accusing NATO of resorting to Cold War tactics. In an interview with Izvestia, Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Alexander Grushko declared that NATO expansion should remain a thing of the past. Quote, "Joining NATO is the path to worsening relations and increased tension," Grushko said. On May 27, Poland's largest web portal, Onet, featured a story about Poland's push for a permanent U.S. military base in Poland. Citing sources in Poland's defense ministry, Onet wrote that in a document presented by the ministry explaining the need for such a U.S. presence, Poland was willing to invest up to $2 billion in the future base. Now, Poland's defense minister, Mariusz Błaszczak, confirmed that Warsaw was talking with the U.S. about a permanent military base. Initially, Russian presidential spokesman Dmitry Peskov said such plans were the sovereign right of Poland, but later added that Moscow would react to these plans accordingly. Argumenty I Fakty, meanwhile, made its position clear in the headline, "Medicine for Paranoia to the tune of $2 billion. Why does Poland need a U.S. base?" Mendacious stories about NATO destabilizing Europe continued with the May 31 story in RT claiming that Washington was transferring military equipment to Poland in vast numbers. A few days earlier, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov announced that NATO troops were engaged in suspicious activity. NATO troops really are on the move towards Poland. NATO military exercises on training grounds in Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland, involving some 18,000 military personnel and 19 countries, are starting on June 3rd and will last through June 15. NATO officials have repeatedly talked about the upcoming military exercises. Lavrov ignored those statements, preferring to call the exercise preparations destructive actions causing concern for Russia. Russian media reacted to Kyiv's announcement that the country will leave the CIS, claiming Ukraine will face a gloomy future, suffer billions of dollars in losses, and have problems in relations with countries in the post-Soviet space as a result. RT, NTV, Vzglyad, and Komsomolskaya Pravda devoted lengthy analytical pieces to the topic, ranging from dire economic and political prognoses to statements that Ukraine has not officially announced that it is in fact pulling out of the CIS. This wave of manipulative Russian media analysis began on May 19, the day that Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko signed an executive order terminating international treaties that Ukraine was party to within the framework of the Commonwealth of Independent States, the CIS. After signing the decree recalling Ukraine's representatives from all CIS statutory bodies, Poroshenko said, "There's nothing more for us to do there. We're moving together to Europe." He also pointed out that Ukraine was never a CIS member, as it did not ratify the organization's charter in 1993. Russia immediately began crying doom and gloom in response. Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova declared that Ukraine owed the CIS 300 million rubles, slightly less than $5 million, and that the procedure of withdrawing from the Commonwealth can take the Ukrainian side up to a year. Ukraine first announced it would not continue paying CIS membership fees after Russia annexed Crimea and occupied parts of eastern Ukraine. In 2015, Ukraine's Foreign Minister Pavlo Klimkin said the CIS is not a political partner for Ukraine and described the bloc as a post-Soviet get-together. And finally, a few words about Arkady Babchenko, the Russian journalist who, fearing for his safety, fled to Ukraine. One day he was reported killed, and the next day he was alive. It was all a special operation to catch his killers and apprehend those that ordered the murder. The wave of reactions from Russia to both events was immediate but rather old hat. Kremlin-serving media blared, it was all Ukraine's fault. That's it for this week. For more dissected fakes as well as tips on how to spot them, visit our website, stopfake.org. Look, be vigilant, don't consume fakes. If you spot any disinformation about Ukraine, send it to us for a truth autopsy. I'm Marko Suprun, and this is StopFake. Thanks for watching.